Hey folks, thanks so much for registering and attending our webinar, Radio and Television, the biggest mistakes you can make when buying ads. I'm so stoked to introduce Leslie Boyd and Mischelle Davis. Mischelle Davis and I go back several years when we met at a Ben Glass conference, and I ran into her recently at a Pilma conference, and we had a long conversation over drinks. She told me everything that they were doing at their law firm. We talked about we do web content and other clients and attorneys. Then we started talking about ad buying and how it helped with her firm and the horror stories that she was having. So we went a little bit more in depth into what was going on, and she said I had to meet Leslie Boyd. So immediately after the conference, I contacted Leslie after she sent me the information. And I said, Leslie, I heard amazing things about you. I got to have you on my show. One of my webinars for my list, people are going to come like crazy. We had almost a booked house of registrants. So some people couldn't make it, so we'll probably be sending over the video. But again, Leslie Boyd has years and years of experience with ad buying on television and radio and working with big companies. She currently freelances in the West Coast for a big agency. Leslie's a go-to person for Mischelle Davis and the Davis Law Group for their ad buying. I think she saved them over $75,000. Mischelle Davis can go into a little further with you, but I know she was looking at contracts and getting into information, and they have a funny story about how they met. They were, I think, away on vacation, and the husbands met and the ladies met. They had cocktails, started talking about ad buying. Next thing you know, they're at dinner, and Mischelle Davis is bringing her contracts to read. Apparently, she was baffled. Leslie was baffled looking at this information and seeing what were in these contracts because she's not used to that. That's not how she works. Let's cut the middleman and let's see what someone like Leslie with her experience can show us so we can start building our law firms, budgeting correctly, analyzing correctly, reading these contracts correctly. So again, I'm super excited. I think there's tons of great content here on this webinar. Hopefully it's not over your head. If you're thinking about buying, hold off. If you've already purchased, make sure you pull out your contracts and start reviewing some of the things you're going to see. We're going to cover some BS words that you should look out for. In another webinar, I'd like to discuss how to prepare your website for ad buying. That was another horror story that Mischelle had told me about, a mutual friend that didn't prepare their website. I mean, their ad did amazing, so they jumped on it quickly and they were able to. Mischelle Davis has built the Davis Law Group with Chris Davis. He is a lawyer and an amazing lawyer at it. She does all the marketing. She's a client relations at the firm. She's worked with content, SEO, marketing, development, absolutely everything you can think of for your overall marketing. Her mindset on this is excellent. I mean, I think we're on the same page when we think it's not just one piece of the puzzle to do something. It's not just a little bit of ad buying, a little bit of PPC. It's a little bit of everything. Everything all encompassing to give you the results that you want for your law firm. They're doing so awesome that they're picking and choosing their cases, referring them to local attorneys. So they're doing very, very well. She's definitely someone you want to reach out to and learn from. I hope to have her more on the show. So again, with that said, I'm going to get you onto the recording now. I think we missed the first 5 minutes because I wasn't able to record it, but the whole presentation is there. I hope you enjoy it. Please leave your comments. You'll be getting an email with some information on contacting Leslie and Mischelle. So again, I look forward to seeing you all in the webinar, and I hope you enjoy the content. Thank you again for registering and attending. These are important to us. I hope we're delivering good content to you. Have a great day.
$75,000 I found in waste on some of her radio and TV contracts that she didn't know was waste. Yeah. Two radio stations were packaged together as one. I'm like, well, why are you buying the AM? All you really wanted to buy the FM or whatever the situation was. And I peeled it away, and it was $75,000 worth of advertising that she didn't realize that she didn't need.
Yeah, and wasn't getting a response from it. So I just turn it all over to Leslie now. But what we're going to mostly talk about today, just to get lawyers where, from a starting point, I guess, most of them have never talked to a TV or radio advertising rep. The only exposure they've had is to these lawyer advertising services that proactively contact them. And many of those companies are very good and very reputable, but there's some really, really shady ones out there too. And so we're going to talk about all the things that we've seen and what to look out for. And it'll lay a really good groundwork for understanding of how media buying should work. And then at some of the, so just to give you an idea super fast of what we're doing here in Seattle. So we started advertising. I started working with my husband's law firm doing all this marketing in '07. And in December of '07 is when we first started doing advertising. It takes a while for it to ramp up. And you're going to see me turning this way because that's where I have the slide up. But we promote the firm or the lawyers or offers like folks that if you're part of the Coma world or the Backlash world that you've probably seen. And at one point we were giving away 800 books a month, which was really too much for what we do. We were kind of overexposed. But we do the advertising, we drive people to either our website or a special website where we fill out forms and respond to offers. All of our advertising drives people to a website or a phone number so that we can track it. So that's the background on what we've done. But to get into these firms, these lawyer advertising firms, and again, there's some really good ones out there, there's some really bad ones out there. The main thing is you need to do your due diligence, and I'm shocked that some of the bad companies get away with what they do because stuff that they're doing is right in their contract. And you guys are lawyers, you're supposed to know better, you're supposed to read the contract. But there's some bad ones out there. So before we get into those, just for Leslie to give us a starting point, what is the standard practice in the advertising industry for how media buying of TV and radio time works?
Okay, well there's a few players that are involved. There's the radio stations and the TV stations. Inside those, there's the sales staffs. They have an on-air broadcast studio, production studio, copywriters. That's standard everywhere across the country. Then there's huge advertising agencies like the Mad Men of the world that have all of that in-house. And they're the ones that probably only take on clients that can afford the $2 million Super Bowl ad. So they're massive. Coke, stuff like that. Yeah. They're big. And then there's what's branched off from those are the smaller 1- and 2-man shops, and then media buyers and people who do freelancing. And that's what I do. I actually freelance for an advertising agency here in Seattle when they need a media buyer, so when they need someone to buy radio and television. And then I also write the commercials, and then I work directly with clients like David Slaughter. So standard practice is just there's all those different players. What I do is the media buying, and one of the things,
what are the fees? How does the fees of how media buyers get paid, or how agency fees?
Okay, well, media buyers, this is the industry standard, and it is a media buyer gets paid 15% of what the media buy is. So if I have a $10,000 budget for my client, and I'm buying $10,000 worth of radio or TV, I get a 15% commission of that. So my commission is $1,500. The buy itself is still $10,000. So there's $10,000 worth of radio or TV that is placed at the radio or TV station. The TV station and the radio station are only going to be paid $8,500. Altogether, it comes to $10,000. It's a $10,000 buy. But way back in the days of Mad Men, when they were creating how we pay radio and television stations and who are these advertising agencies, the ad agencies made a commission. Does that make sense?
You get $10,000 worth of advertising, but you're paying $8,500 to the radio or TV station and $1,500 to the buyer.
Yep.
So it's kind of this deal that the buyers and advertisers have to say, we understand somebody's got to get paid for their work, so this is up, right?
Yeah, well, it used to be called an advertising agency commission. So they made a commission off the buy. That's how ad agencies made money, just on the buy. But that's what I am. I am that buyer.
So we're skipping someone in the middle. By working with someone like you, Leslie, are we shedding off the middleman?
Yes, you are. Because I am my own creative, I write my own commercials, and then I work directly with the radio and the TV stations and their production houses in-house. They do the production for me, and then I work directly with a radio station rep or a TV station rep, and they do the buying. Well, they place the buy right from them.
So one of these several of these legal advertising media buying companies has said that the media buyer agency gets fees equal to 15% of the gross billing and shall be entitled to receive and retain a standard industry commission from media resulting from the purchase of the media. So does that sound like, if you read that in the contract, does that seem right? Or because they're getting 15% of the gross and an industry commission. That's what some of these legal marketing ones. Does that make sense?
Yeah, this is where it starts to get a little wonky. So they're still saying 15% of the gross, they say billing, but that's different than the gross buy. That makes sense?
Ooh, gross but billing versus buy. So how that?
Basically what they're saying is we could buy that $10,000 with the radio or TV, and then also have all these other fees that are stacking up, maybe production, maybe the creative, maybe copywriting, maybe whatever they're putting in there, talent fee, I don't know. But then they're also saying they're going to get paid 15% of that.
So then that's the legal advertising company, actually more than one has had language like that in their contract. But you never hear of that in the real world. You never hear, like, it's basically self-existing, right?
Yeah.
So,
without saying so, yeah.
So, okay, so another question then, on the slide in there, there we go. Most companies that sell TV, legal-based case leads or offer TV, radio, and advertising buying services for lawyers have in their contract terms of like 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, where they're locking you in to advertising for 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. Is that standard practice? Is what these legal lawyer advertising people are doing? Is that?
Well, I'll let you in on a secret that's not a secret. In radio and TV, no matter what the length of contract that you have contracted with the radio or television station, you have to give a 2-week notice. So that's just like, that's standard. That's back to the 15% of how I get paid. You just have to give them 2 weeks, and that's how the agencies or the radio stations and the TV stations feel that's not enough amount of time for them to rebuy it.
Or have resell it.
Yeah.
So if I'm working with one of these law firm advertising companies, they locked me in for a year, and I cancel my contract, and they want me to pay them for the whole 1-year contract. If they cancel the ads, which they have 2 weeks to do that with the TV and radio stations, they can just pocket everything else.
Yes.
That's the idea.
So I feel like you're going to see as we go through these, I'll roll up stuff from actual contracts that I've seen. But by the way, all of this stuff and all of these slides, I've talked to a bunch of TV and radio and lawyer-focused advertising companies in the last 6 months. This is all really current. Okay, so questions 3, 4, and 5. Do media buyers typically require their clients to set a specific budget? And if the budget set isn't, if you set a budget, isn't the media buyer's responsibility to go out and spend all that budget? So if I say I got $100,000 in my budget, it's your job to go out and buy me $100,000 worth of advertising. But if we end up spending less than $100,000, we end up spending less than the budget, right? Should the media buyer, lawyer, legal law firm agencies, should they still get a full commission on the whole budget, or just what they place?
What I'm understanding is that they're getting a full commission on that $100,000. I would just get commission on what I place, and if I can buy a radio station and negotiate a better deal than the next guy, that's all the money that I'm going to use to place on the buy. So if I can buy a really nice deal for $5,000 and you gave me $10,000, I'd say there's still $5,000 left after I just bought this radio station. What do you want to do with it? So I wouldn't place it. My job is.
But you don't get a commission on what was budgeted that we didn't spend. So like Leslie and I were sat down in January. I said, okay, here's what I spent last year, so let's make that my budget again. But you shaved off $75,000. You saved me, but you didn't get commission on the $75,000 you saved me.
No.
So here's some actual contract language from one of those companies that does the legal stuff. They're actually saying they want to get the commission off the whole budget, and that's just crazy. That's not industry.
Well, the thing of it is, with a buyer like me and most media buyers, I can account for every single dollar that a client gives me. So I should be able to, I can show a radio or television contract to my clients and say, this is where all the spots are going. There's a good media buyer can follow every single dollar for their client, and the client should be able to follow along.
Mm-hmm. So well, we're going to get to how some of them don't follow along and do the other one. So do media buyers typically get paid even if the advertising doesn't run? And a great example is, if you and I are booking next year during the election year, we book a whole bunch of advertising, but then because of, the way election broadcast, requirements are, a bunch of that has to get bumped. Do you get a commission based on what we placed or on what actually ran?
I only get commission on what actually ran. I don't get paid in advance, so I get paid after the fact, after what actually ran. So if something gets bumped is just an industry term for when a radio or TV commercial gets bumped out by somebody else for whatever reason. I don't get paid on that one spot. But the radio station and the TV station, the rep should call me and say, once your stuff got bumped, I'm going to try really hard to get it back in. Where can I put it back in? And then I work with that rep to see where I can put it back in. And then I let my client know, we had this amount that was bumped. You want me to try to make it good within the week, the month, next month. And then there are invoices that come out and show exactly where all those spots went. And both I and the client get a copy of that invoice.
But if a bunch of the ads just don't run, then I don't know the TV or radio station money, they didn't run my ad. Right. I don't know you a commission on the cost of those ads because it didn't run. So contracts like this one, and I had a lot of different examples to pull from. So this one talks about the start of advertising, but a lot of them also refer to just when advertising happens. So when they say that the media buyer is entitled to the license fee and 15% of the quarterly advertising budget, even if it didn't run, that just means
not okay.
That's just
that's not industry standard.
So here, this is one of my faves. And when I asked you about this one, I remember you kind of freaked out.
The rest of it's been.
Yeah. So there we go. Do media buyers and agencies typically ask to be listed buyers?
Yeah, this is a good one.
Yeah, if you're my buyer, can I not buy advertising any other way?
Well, you can do whatever you want to. I mean, like a good example is Microsoft. I mean, we're in the land of Microsoft, and I can name off Boeing, and these are huge accounts out here. Whether it's a big account or it's a small account, multiple agencies through different aspects work with that account. I run into people like, I just got the Microsoft account. I'm thinking, you and 2,000 other people.
There's so many different silos of Microsoft, so many different agencies buying for them.
Right, so she wanted to do something with web agency, print, something that she didn't ask me to do anything with. Your prerogative.
Yeah, I do what I want. So in fact, sometimes after Leslie's place things, if I want to cancel a week because of something that's going on in the office, or a great example is we cancel all advertising when there's a jury trial. So I just email the station directly and say I can cancel from this time, or I didn't tell you this, but I actually decided yesterday on the ad a few weeks later this month.
Oh, okay.
So okay. So so I can do that directly, or I can email Leslie and she can do it. But there's nothing prohibiting me from doing that. Some of these legal advertising agencies, if you want to call them, the ones that are calling lawyers all the time, they have clauses in their contract that say that they and only they can represent you to buy any and all advertising or any type that you need. So they just locked you in, so you're now required to buy your pay-per-click and everything else in that.
Right.
Yes. So that was freaking out. Okay, so next one. Are advertising costs typically paid in advance to television and radio stations. For some of these companies, you look at their contracts, and they want all the money up front, either monthly, quarterly, or in some cases for the whole year.
Okay, well, that's an interesting question, because when I work with a client that's never done any radio or any television or any advertising, they have no history, they're like, this is a brand new account, whether they have $1 million in the bank or not. So most radio stations and TV station companies, like the big guys, the CBS, all the big guys, right down the little mom and pops, ask to have cash up front or to be paid up front for the first 1 or 2 months. And then after that, credit is established. They get dollar credit is established. So then after that, they're billed like anybody else who can pay on 30, 60, or 90 days.
Yeah, so I haven't had to pay up front for advertising in years. I think just the first couple of months tracking this stuff.
And then what happens too is in a market, once the client buys, say whatever radio station, the ABC station, they establish credit with one radio or television station, all the other ones will do business with them too.
So yes,
So they have their own internal.
if I pick up a new station, TV or radio that I've never advertised before, if they know I've got a track record in this market, I'm going to advertise, they may not ask me for any money up front in those first couple months.
Yeah, they won't.
So these lawyer marketing agencies who are asking for tons of money up front, that's just weird.
Well, it's unfortunate for the client because it's painful enough to pay for, your bill, but you have to pay it front every single month or pay for the whole year is not standard.
Yeah, that's right. That leads into the next one question, which is typically when you're working with a media buyer, who's paying the TV or radio station is because a lot of these lawyer marketing ones they want you to pay all the money of your budget up front to them, and then they're paying the TV or radio station. So, and we'll talk later about one of the reasons why they might do that. But so
this is whatever makes the client most comfortable. I mean, I make sure the client does it the way they want to do it. I don't force them to pay me or the agent or the radio or TV station any particular way. Sometimes I'll ask the client if they want to have a corporate credit card and they can pay the radio station directly. And they give it miles.
Yeah, so Chris and I pay all of our TV and radio advertising with our Alaska Airlines credit card, and we have not paid to fly around Alaska Airlines.
And then they would write me a check for my commission. So if they're comfortable doing that, if they're comfortable using a credit card, they pay the radio or TV station with that, they send me a check, that's fine. Or they can, actually I don't want to be a bank either. So so that's the best way, then everybody's paid and nobody's handling the client's money.
So some of these contracts say that you have to pay the agency up front. These are these lawyer agencies. Because the contract will later go on to say that if the agency ends up not paying the advertiser, that you're still on the hook. So you may have paid the lawyer advertising agency, let's say $100,000, whatever, and then they skip out, don't pay whatever, but then you're going to still owe the TV and radio station, so then you double pay, which is crazy. A couple of these companies, I've seen that the same executives of these lawyer advertising companies over and over at different companies, because the company will be around for a while, and they'll get a bad reputation, they'll close their doors, there's lawsuits, all that stuff. And then those same, CEOs and marketing people crop up at a new lawyer advertising thing, and just over and over again. But when they do that, and they switch out and declare bankruptcy on that little LLC or whatever, then you're left holding the bag with all the spots they put. So next question, if I get slides to this, sorry. Typically, what kind of reports do advertisers get to show what they receive for the advertising dollar? What is the difference between the media schedule and the post log?
Yeah, you've got a couple of good stories on this.
Yeah.
Okay, so there were two different pieces of paper that the radio station is going to give you when you place a buy, or the TV station is going to give you a place a buy. It's a contract showing what you expect, what you place. 10 ads, each one's $200, $1,000, $2,000, whatever it is, it's down at the bottom, and that's what it is.
But remember, you can get out of that with only 2 weeks notice when you're doing that.
Right. So you can place that on as far in advance as you want or whatever. Maybe it's just a 1 week. There's a big sale, whatever it is. So that's the contract. After the schedule runs, there's going to be a thing called an invoice, which is, in other words, the bill. But the invoice is electronically, it's tied into the traffic system of the radio and the TV station, and it is literally going to print out where each one of these commercials fell. It's going to say the name of the commercial. So in your schedule, you've got 2 different types of
Version of an ad.
yes, 2 different things. Or one's a 15-second, one's a 30. It's going to go line by line, day by day, hour by hour, where those spots ran.
So I might have one that's like, July 2nd at 7:45 a.m., 30 seconds, the name of the version of the ad, because I had 4 or 5 versions, and the cost of that ad.
Mm-hmm. And so each cost of each ad is going to, and it's going to come down here and it's going to total. What I do is my client gets a copy of the contract, the radio or TV station sends me the invoice. I look at it and make sure it matches up all those little weird times right down to the second that the computer prints out. I make sure they fall into the day parts that I bought in the contract. If I see any problems that look weird to me, I highlight those and I call my rep. I go, well, none of them there. I don't want my client to pay for that. And then I see if I can get a no charge from that.
Which is important because sometimes your ads get bumped.
They do.
Right.
So what's interesting is like one of the companies I talked to, let's see if they can come up. Well, there we go. One of the legal advertising companies that I talked to, I asked them what kind of information they give me, and they said I'd get a copy of the schedule, which is the buy. And I said to them, well, can I get copies of the post logs? The post logs is what actually ran and what ends up in the invoice. And she said to me that they don't want to bother me with such a meaningless duplicate report, right? But the fact is, if my ads get bumped by some other advertiser who's willing to pay more for that spot, or it's election season, or anything can happen there, or the account we were talking about yesterday of yours, where the ad rep at the station screws up and things are all over.
Yeah, it happens.
If I have paid the media buyer for stuff on the front end of what was booked, but then the stuff didn't run, then what did I just pay for? I paid for nothing. So the post laws is where the rubber meets the road. That's what actually ran, right? And a company like this legal advertising company says to me, oh no, post laws are not important. You don't need that. She's lying to me outright. I know she's lying to me outright. I tell Leslie, and Leslie goes, what?
Well, and back in the case with the first couple of months where the radio stations wanting to establish credit and pay cash in advance. So if the cash has already been sent to the radio station's been paid in advance for those first couple of months. I still am doing this on the contracts and the invoice. So when I get the invoice and it doesn't match what my client had placed, the radio station either has to roll those spots into the next week, the next month, whatever it is, or they've got to take it off the invoice and less that amount of money.
Wow.
And so sometimes we're doing stuff like, wait a second, why did this ad run at 3 in the morning? I didn't buy that time of the day.
Yeah, and then
so,
they're not attached to it.
Yeah, so they're like, oh, we'll zero that. And you have to watch those reports. So, but it's a scam. They're not going to let you see those. That's crazy.
All right, we have a question. I know we're going through awesome. This is some really cool exclusive info, and you're really digging deep. We have a question from someone who obviously is not having these same issues, so he's probably working with one of the good companies, but he's saying, what agencies are you folks dealing with? Not that we can mention any names. These horror stories are not the norm.
There are some we're not going to name names. If somebody wants to call me, I'll tell them. So there's some really, really good companies out there. So this person who submitted this question obviously got lucky and chose a good one. There are some good ones. In fact, I'm talking to one right now that I think is potentially really interesting. And Leslie and I have been emailing stuff back and forth because they're unique. But there's some of the ones that email you constantly that you hear about a little bit, and then we're going to get to it in a few minutes. There were like group buying deals, so we're going to talk later about the ones that are charging you for placing TV ads and stuff, and then they're also charging you for leads. And there's some good ones there too, but there's some bad ones. It's just like any business. You've got some bad guys out there, right?
There's going to be media buyers that don't disclose everything that they should too. But at least we're like showing you like the little man behind the curtain on questions you should be asking whoever you're working with.
Right. This is great stuff. I mean, that's good. You know, I didn't know a lot of it, and it's definitely good to know. I'm sure the audience. Does the audience have any questions right now before we get into buzzwords other than?
Yeah, this is just
Bob.
one buzzword slide that we threw in here just to.
Yeah, these are good. So if there aren't any questions, yeah, go ahead, girls.
Okay, so these are words that I didn't know before we got into this, were words that are sometimes misused. And we decided to throw these in here just to call BS on some of these. So you were going to do
These are like confusing advertising terms. You know, it's our own lingo and jargon that we have. Trust me, I don't think there's what the lawyers use. I don't put this class here. So the first word is BTA. If somebody says to you, oh, we're going to run those BTA, fabulous, that actually means best time available. That actually means unsold inventory.
which is unsold because nobody wants it.
Right, or maybe it's a pretty acronym for just saying it's unsold
We're
inventory.
giving you the clue if nobody else wants it.
Okay, well the next acronym is same thing, ROS, run schedule. So
Which you took a lot. I had a lot of ROS in my schedule before Leslie started helping me. I had no idea.
Right, and what that means is I was looking at some lines on her contract. This would happen for a radio station, and she had, say there were $200 spots, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 12 midnight. And I'm like, $200 spot, and that would be what you consider best time available or run a schedule. And I was like, well, that should have been locked in. $200, that should have been in morning drive or PM drive, midday. And how the rep wrote it, they could run it in the evening, but it's at a prime time dollar spot.
I'm paying high dollar. I'm paying a prime. Yeah, but we looked at the bill list. Remember a bunch of them like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning.
Yeah, and that means that person had then, when they put the contract in, they'd written it like 24-hour ROS run schedule. Which overnight, you know, there are people that are in, like, you know, Boeing makes planes 24 hours a day here, you know, but you should be paying a prime time. Yeah, right. You should be paying a prime spot for something. And that's just confusing. I mean, it's not fair if they don't disclose that. TAP plan. Oh, it's a TAP plan. TAP plan, total audience plan. They give you third taps or fourth taps. And that sounds like, oh, okay, I want to reach the total audience. That term just means the radio station, the radio or TV station rep, say it's really simplistic. Say it's 9 spots that they're buying, 9 commercials. If it's a third tap, 9 to run in prime, Monday through Friday, 6 a to 7 p. 9 are going to run, or 3 are going to run in the evening across the board, including the weekend, and then 3 are going to rotate on Saturday and Sunday. Well, that's super loosey-goosey. I mean, you should be able to lock down your spots.
So what they're trying to say is, you get our total audience. You'll get our daytime audience, our nighttime audience, our weekend audience. And it sounds like you get exposure to the total audience of our station. But you should have a target audience that's specific to some of the programs or the day parts. So you don't want you don't want the total audience, right? That's right.
You don't want the total. Okay, rotators. Rotators are what we're talking about.
The run station.
Yeah, the run station. Those are just like rolling to the wind. Yeah, so sometimes radio station reps will attach maybe something at an inexpensive price, trying to get up to the budget. They should say they're $10 spots, $10 rotators running 24 hours a day. But you wouldn't know what a rotator was. When I looked at her contracts, I'm like, what are all these rotators doing on here? And all that was just like village. That was just village getting up to her budget.
What it was is the rep at the radio station trying to pad my spend, which pads her commission.
Well, and then it makes it look like there are a lot more commercials on there, because they're less expensive. You can buy like that. I mean, there are a lot of people who say, just give me the best time available. Give me ROS. Make it a tap plan. I'll give you rotators, but I'm only going to give you $10 a spot. As long as it's disclosed, but the likelihood is those are going to run after midnight. Probably most of them are going to see a prime time spot. just as long as you understand what this means.
Right.
It's not that it's bad, it's just don't get
fooled by it, just make sure you understand.
Yeah, because they also use it and misrepresent what it is.
Yeah, and just know what it is when you see it on contract, like, I don't know what that is.
We have another question that just came in.
Okay.
So there again about the big agency scams. They're saying we haven't addressed, and I don't think we're done yet. But have we addressed the biggest big legal agencies? What the agency scam run by the big legal agencies wasn't addressed? Overbuying the market. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, so, and I think even without using one of those, I was overbuying without using it. Overbuying, I wasn't overbuying. You can get overexposed, you can spend too much. At one point, you remember telling me that we got some calls on the overnight voicemail saying, enough already, I'm sick of hearing your ads. We used to get those. And there is such a thing as too much of a good thing.
Right, yeah. Overbuying, I mean, I know that it happens, but when I'm looking, you have to know what your client's budget is on the front end. You need to be able to tell your client, you're buying this market, the Seattle market. This is the 13th largest radio and television market in the country. It's pretty expensive. It's considered a large market. So know that you probably can't get a big token on a radio station or one of the top-rated radio stations for less than $8,000 or $9,000 a month. And then I can prove that by showing, I can get all the different rates and avails from the radio stations, the TV stations, and then I can, if the client wants to see it, kind of show them, but I don't need to spend $20,000. And also, depends on the type of client. You guys are service. Not everybody needs you all the time. It's not like a big sale at Nordstrom where you're going to try to buy as many spots as you can leading up to the big half-yearly sale. You're just going to just kill it on every radio station, every TV station. You guys aren't that way. It's more like service triple marketing. You need to be out there, sometimes change your radio and TV stations, reach a different demographic, reach a different target. It depends on what your commercial is. If your commercial is addressing tips and wages disputes, which I know is one that's in Boston, I'm not going to buy a radio station that is advertising for their listeners or running a radio station for easy listening for the 65 plus. I'm going to maybe find a hip-hop station or the top 40 station whose listeners are 18, 24.
More context than wages.
Yeah, but I don't have to overbuy that.
Well, and I think this is super important, though. I think I should say that too. How do you know if you have overbought or underbought? If you don't have a way to measure the responsiveness, the response rate of your advertising, because our ads, the call to action drives them either to a phone number or a website, especially I like sending them to the website, because I can track an increase in visitors, or I can track people filling out the form and downloading this or ordering a book or whatever. But the only way to really know if you're over or undersold is whether or not you're meeting your goals. And if you don't measure, you won't know.
Right.
So I know we got 15 minutes left, so let's get to some of this other stuff too. So question 11, typically when an advertiser pays for the production of a custom TV or radio commercial, who owns the commercial, the advertiser or the production company? Do advertisers usually have the license of custom? If it's original, it's made only for you, should it belong to you or should it belong to the people who made it? Some of the TV lawyer advertising things, some of them, you are licensing. It makes sense to license because perhaps a real big name personality is showing up in this.
Like a TV star.
Like a TV star does. So you're talent fees and maybe licensing the creative of that thing. But if it's a totally original ad that nobody's ever run before, it features your attorneys, your brand, your phone number, and you contributed to the script and the creative, you should own that ad, right, Leslie? I mean, that gave me away.
So when I run a radio or a TV commercial, and if I have it produced in-house at the radio or the TV station, sometimes I'll have a client come in if they want to do like a little voice and Kristen up for like an interview type, TV or radio spot. I've written it. I've either brought in the client themselves to do the talent, or I've asked the radio station, the TV station talent to do it. after it's all said and done, it's my client's ad. Sometimes you have to ask permission if it's a big name, like the Morning Drive guy, like Craig Walker down in Portland, Oregon. I'm not sure he'd want me to run his spot on another radio station. It's kind of, it's
Right, a station that competes with the station where.
yeah, it's probably could do that. We certainly can do it from other markets. I'm going to be using some talent here in Seattle for somebody across the country. That's fine.
Oh, that's cool. I want to hear about that. I didn't know about that. So I threw up here a piece of a contract where they're actually saying that all of the tapes and production, anything that they produce, ends up still belonging to the lawyer advertising company or production company, and that's just crazy. All the ads that I run belong to me. Okay, so is it coming? There it goes. Okay. It is a customary for advertisers to pay a production fee for an ad that's already been created, is several years old, is being used in other markets, and which does not display the advertiser's name, brand, logo, phone number, or URL. That is to say, it's an ad that's already in the can, that they already have. Should I pay a production fee for that ad?
Everybody's seen that? No.
It's already been produced. Why would I be paying for that?
Right.
Like, just crazy. And then there's a contract for that one. I keep having to push this multiple times. Okay, so number 13, I know I got some bonus stuff. Advertising timeshares. So this was one that I couldn't wrap my head around, and this was one of the first ones I called you about, I think, was I call them advertising timeshares. Says a marketing cooperative or being a member of a group advertising program makes sense for lawyers. And give an example of like an industry maybe that it would make sense for lawyers. Does it make sense for lawyers to buy in a group cooperative?
No, unless they're always sharing leads and are kumbayaing and they're somehow there's like some big grand poobah who owns them. I don't know how that would work to make sure that all the leads are separated properly.
Well, and we'll get to that in a second, but
maybe that might work sometimes. I'm not going to say completely no, but
it seems cuckoo for.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't know how. You guys are competing for leads, you're competing for clients. I don't know how that would work very well. I'm sure it has somewhere, sometime, someplace, but that one worries me a little bit.
Yeah, so where that one comes from are some of the ones where they're saying, and these, some of them are the same ones too, you're paying a production fee on an ad that's already in place. But what they're saying is, and it'll run their company name, their phone numbers, their URLs, and then, we only have 4 spots in this market. 4 lawyers, only 4 lawyers get in, and you guys are pooling your money to buy the ad spots, and then people call us, and then we'll, every 4th lead will go to you. So, but you're paying to promote their brand, not yours, and build awareness of their brand.
It doesn't say Bob's Law Group floating around on the bottom with their phone number. It's this company that's doing it.
Yeah, and there's several companies that work that way. So they might work for some people, but I personally would never touch it because I'm trying to build Chris's brand in our market. So crazy. So should we jump on? Do we have time? What time is it? We got like 10 minutes?
Yeah, we have 12 minutes.
Well, we weren't sure if we had time for this, so I threw it in the end. So this is kind of a webinar bonus topic, is when these lawyer advertising agencies, if you want to call it, when they're also selling leads. Right? So they're like, we'll push your TV and we'll charge you for leads too. So Leslie, in other industries, does a media buyer who's charging you for their services placing the ad, do they also charge for every phone call or lead that that person gets?
Can you imagine if you were the media buyer for those jobs? No, because this is the first time I've ever heard of this. I'm sure there's maybe some other industries that do this, but in the 25 years that I've been doing this, I've never heard of that before, that not only are you buying the radio and TV, but then you're paying for each lead that comes in. Like there's a value of the lead. And I don't understand how they would. How do you determine what that value is?
Well, so an estimate anywhere from like $50 a lead to $150 a lead to $200 a lead. But because the advertising is promoting that company, It's their call center that's taking the phone call, somebody picks it up. It's their website somebody's going to. They get all the leads, and then they dole them out to you. And by the way, and I don't know if it's in these or not, but in the fine print of some of those contracts, they get to, I think I did put it in here, they get to cherry pick. So a lot of these lawyer advertising companies are owned by lawyers who were doing this in their own market, knew that they knew more than people in their market, so they'll start this little business. So in the fine print of some of these contracts, this is the craziest thing, is they're saying, okay, we're going to give you leads, but if a really, really good one comes in for a really, really good case, we reserve the right to keep it. I think I might have contract language up here to show that, but it's just like the
Yeah, that's crazy. That's nuts.
So let's do it. Yeah, so that was it. So let's see. Is there? Maybe I didn't get contract language in there. Oh, one of them though, this was on this slide, is one of the companies that I was reading their contract, and they seemed at the surface to be similar to some of the others. In the fine print, they would answer the call for the lead that came in, and then they would connect it to your office. So you're paying them for the advertising, you're paying them for the lead, and then they charge 75 cents a minute on when they connect that call to your office. So sometimes we have 15-minute calls, 20-minute, 30-minute calls with potential clients. They would have also been making a charge per minute.
So much of this, Alex, is you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
You don't know it.
Right. That's why this is so good.
Yeah. You can't say it's against the law or these people should be out of business. But just know what you're looking at. I mean, that was the main thing when I started looking at Michelle's a very smart person and worked in marketing at Microsoft. I mean, she has an unfair share of what's over here when looking at all this stuff. And she didn't know what she didn't know.
So I would read these things and I'd be like, is that how it works? And they talk about some of these companies, they're like, we've been doing this for lawyers for 20 years, 30 years, and I'm like, well, they must be doing something right in business. And then I show up, Bob and Chris and you and me go out to dinner, and I bring one of these contracts and hand it to her. She's just like raising up in her chair.
It would be nice to have a good friend who's going to call me, who's going to go, what the? This is, wait a minute, I don't understand, they can do this? Holy smokes. I mean,
that's what we would do.
Yeah, it's nice to have somebody, I mean, I can be a watchdog on somebody's stuff if they want it. I can look at things.
Well, thank God you have that for me. So on some of these lead things too, and I've done some others we don't really look at. So there's different ways that they're selling you the lead. A lead, a qualified lead, what's qualified. One contract said that they considered a qualified lead a person who was injured and it wasn't their fault. There was another one said that any call in which a person is looking for any sort of legal services, even if it's outside your practice area, they're going to call that a lead. One group said if any call that they connect to your office that lasts longer than 2 minutes, they're going to think, they think if you didn't run the case, then you would have got rid of the call within 2 minutes. So they're going to call it qualified and spent more than 2 minutes on the phone. One of the contracts said a lead is a telephone call that came in and was routed to the law firm's telephone number. Each lead is considered billable once the lead is connected to the law firm's telephone system. Only wrong numbers, only if they accidentally called your number, that was the only ones they would consider lead.
So make sure you read that fine print.
Yeah.
Make sure you ask questions.
So how some of them will, in your area code, they'll directly connect the call to your office's phone number. Some of them go through a call center. It's different on all of them. So if you're talking to one of these companies and they seem good, and again, there are some good ones out there, understand how it is routed and what happened. Some of them, too, some of them sign the person up and then give you the case, and then you're going to owe them a referral fee on the case. If you accept the case, or you're going to owe them a percentage of your fees. I see literally seeing it every which way, so just be really clear and understand. And understand who owns the lead. Because many of the contracts state specifically,
right.
What Mary said earlier about cherry picking.
And you get that with some lead companies too, so you got to be careful with that.
And then, so are you paying for each individual lead, for the call that's routed, by the minute, by the, you know, just be clear on that. So we have a couple ones to watch out for, and then we're done. So several legal advertising companies do not allow any of their sales reps to use email. More than one. Why would they not let their sales reps use email? That seems crazy. I'm thinking they don't want the salesperson putting anything in writing.
Right, nothing in writing.
So it's crazy. One of them only will fax you.
Nobody answers the fax anymore.
Yes, it's crazy. One legal marketing firm's television ads only run between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and anyone who calls or responds outside of that time or on the weekends or whatever, gets a voicemail that your business is closed. So people don't always respond right when they get around. That one's nuts. If there's disconnects between what the salesperson said and what the contract states, which happens a lot. I take really copious notes when I meet with these guys, and then when I get a copy of the contract, I'm looking to see if there's a disconnect between what the salesperson said. Because some of them, the salesperson's talking all about leads, and yet so many leads a month, or so many cases, but then the contract doesn't say anything. You have any guarantees about those. Or, worse yet, and I didn't have time to put this on the slide, there are contracts that have hush clauses in them. That once you sign up with them, you're contractually bound to never say anything bad, write a bad review, say anything about it. There are at least 3 of these companies I know have hush clauses. So I wish I had time to put that in.
But I don't have a hush clause.
No, you don't. So that covers everything that we prepared to.
Yeah, and I want to say something too. Any one of you lawyers can pick up a phone and call a radio or a TV station directly. You work with a salesperson. If you have the time and you want to investigate how to do it, there are good local radio and TV reps out there.
Like your husband who's at a sales it.
Yeah. And there are good media buyers, and vice versa. You know, there are people who are maybe not so great on either end. But you can do it. You can call and place a buy. You can have a local person write your spot for you.
That's what I did in the beginning. That's how I started out.
Yeah. Or you can go to an ad agency, or you can use one of these firms, or you can use a media buyer.
There's good and bad and all
Great.
of them.
Just make sure you know what you're doing as far as looking at the contracts and understanding what's expected and what's going to come up.
Awesome.
And then the after.
Great. Well,
So you, where they can get the info?
yeah, so I'd like for everyone that's on the webinar, you have a great opportunity. Leslie's offering a 15-minute free consultation. So if you have any questions that you want to talk to her about, if you have contracts or something that you're working on currently, or you need help with anything, feel free to go to our website, wedowebcontent.com/ad buying with a hyphen, and fill out the form and answer your questions there. And then we'll schedule some time for you to talk to Leslie, because she's been nice enough to take some time and work with some of our clients, and I can't wait to get things going. There's some of their information as well. Michelle, if you have any questions for Michelle or Leslie, feel free to reach out. Again, it's wedowebcontent/ad buying. I know there was a couple things we didn't cover, so maybe we'll send it out to the people that registered. I think there was some information on preparing for ads and some other things that we had discussed. But look out for other webinars. I hope you found it helpful. Leslie, Michelle, thank you so much. It was a pleasure. It was like watching the Today Show.
Yeah, toned down. I was sitting on this most of the time. This is so toned down.
I hope you all enjoyed it. Thanks again. Make sure you join the other webinars. Have an awesome and safe weekend. Does anybody have any questions before we go? We still have a few minutes. No questions? No? Nothing yet? All right, well, please fill out. It's a lot harder to type everything, too. So take your time, go to the webpage, and then you can fill it out and ask any questions there, or any future webinars you'd like to see, let us know. Thank you again. Feel free to contact Leslie or Michelle Davis on the information there. We'll discuss on sending this out to the attendees. Have a great day. Thank you again, ladies.
Thank you.
Thanks again for watching the webinar, folks. Like I mentioned during the call, please remember to come by wedowebcontent.com/ad-buying/ to register for your free 15-minute consultation with Leslie. All you got to do is come to this page and let us know what you're interested in learning more about, and filling out the below contact form, submitting it to schedule a specific time with Leslie. We'll reach back out to you and let you know what's available once we get your email. But let us know how we can help. Again, we do web content. We're a content marketing firm, web development, legal content writing, ebooks. You definitely need ebooks for your ad buying, so let us know. You need to prepare your website for it so we can help you with the content. If you're looking for SEO partners, I work with Conrad Som, who's one of the best in the legal industry. Newsletters, you know, you got to keep in touch with your clients, so make sure you stay in touch. Again, let me know how we might be able to help, and continue registering and attending the webinars. Thank you again. Have a great day.